Secretary-General Jessie Duarte says all names will be scrutinized at the party's National List Conference at UMhlanga, north of Durban. The meeting, being held behind closed doors, continues today. It's also being attended by alliance partners and leagues. The meeting dragged until late last night as delegates discussed and voted for names of people the party will be sending to the National Assembly after the elections. Our reporter Ayanda Mhlongo joins us live from Durban, and she's with ANC NEC member Zizi Kodwa. Ayanda, good afternoon. Thank you for joining us. What is the latest?
Good afternoon, Mahendra. Well, we've started to see some of the NEC members leave the venue here today, where they've basically had quite a huge task on their hands, and that is to come up, or at least approve the 200 names of those members that they'll be sending to the National Assembly. It's a process that yesterday the Deputy Secretary General of the party, Jessie Duarte, did say was going to take some time. There was a lot that they had to go through, and that they were not going to rush that process. And we know that earlier on today we spoke about that they still needed to go through a vetting process, and of course the process of then actually asking those that have been nominated whether or not they will accept or decline. But without wasting much time, as you said, I'm now joined by Zizi Kodwa to tell us what has been happening inside. They are wrapping up today. Zizi, thank you so much for your time. And I think the entire South Africa is eagerly awaiting to find out, are we going to be able to do we know who has made it on to the list, the 200 names that you'll be deploying to the National Assembly?
I think what is important is to understand first, what was this first phase about? This first phase was to consolidate what came from branches, raw as it is. So it was not the purpose of a list conference to take out or to put in any names, but it is to look at broadly whether the names that come from branches represent what is called broad guidelines and principles that set out by the NEC on issues of demographies, on issues of non-racialism, which reflect the character of the ANC, on issues of representativity, on issues of continuity, for example, on issues of gender and youth. So this meeting was looking at those issues, whether what comes from branches truly represent the character of the ANC. We've now satisfied ourselves that indeed what comes from branches is what is called a culmination of a democratic peregrination. That indeed our character is a democratic organization, and branches have expressed themselves and preferences. The next step is now what some of people will look at, the integrity of those that will be in the process, credibility. We look at people whether they meet some of the guidelines, including, for example, the rules we have set out for ourselves. Criminal conviction is a no-no, it's not a negotiations. There could be issues about certain names, but the principle is the list of the ANC is a list that must be electable. People, when they look at the list of the ANC, it must attract a voter. So it's not about satisfying ourselves. It's about what is important to the voter. And the voter may look at a name and say, that name, because of the certain allegations faced, I may not vote. And therefore, the next phase is important, the phase of vetting. Vetting may include each name. Will this person make the ANC to gain at least one vote? We don't want a name on the list of the ANC that may minus one voter. So each name on the list, which is an important phase, is that each name must bring more voters of the ANC. And that is not because we will be finalized by this list conference. That is the next phase. The third phase would be, among others, will include whether people who are on the list themselves are available. The list conference has not asked anybody, has not asked Zizi, has not asked President Ramaphosa, has not asked anybody, are you available? The next phase will be, are you available, are you declining, and so on. It will then therefore indicate to us whether indeed the vetting itself should include other names which are on the list now.
So in terms of, I suppose they're going to be concluding now. You did say that there are still some processes that are going to continue. So one, then I understand, will continue after today.
What happens after today is that yesterday we consolidated the list in terms of national to national. What happens today is that we are discussing still an extended NEC with alliance partners. We're discussing the manifesto of the ANC. After lunch today, we'll then be focusing on what the manifesto is about, because what is important is not to have a basket of promises, but commitments, because we've got an experience in government. It's not like we was doing political adventurism. We know what it means to be in government for 25 years. We've done better to change South Africa to be what it is now. What are the things that we need to do urgently? We are combining the manifesto and the January 8th statement. We are dealing with those issues today and tomorrow. The January 8th statement and the manifesto must be a program of action on issues that would have been raised in the January 8th statement. This is what we are doing now with our alliance partners.
Let me just quickly go back now, Zizi, to the list, and also I think the issue of young people. It has been stressed. The youth have been quite adamant that they want to see a certain percentage of those that are going to be deployed, not only to the National Assembly, but also to the provincial legislatures, that there needs to be a representation from the youth as well.
There's never been a fight historically in the ANC between the old and the new. The replenishment of leadership of the ANC and infusion of young blood and young people has always been automatic, and that replenishment is informed by the fact that young people themselves, there's been an appreciation and a progression of young people within the ANC, like Zizi. When they started, they were in the youth league, and therefore they are no longer young people, but there's an appreciation of them in terms of what contribution they've made in the ANC. So, but also we must talk about young people, proper young people of lesser age in terms of definition of less than 35. There are principles and the guidelines that we're not going to compromise. For example, when we say at least, each list, whether national or legislature, must have at least 20 young people, we mean it. And therefore the political intervention that will be done subsequent to this would look at, if we say at least we're not satisfied now, we are not meeting the 20%, the political intervention must make sure that we meet, not less, at least 20% and above. On women in terms of gender parity, we're not negotiating 50%. So each list that comes from each province in terms of the legislature and that goes to parliament, we're not going to compromise and negotiate, including terms of retention. Because experience, among others, we can't exclude young people because they don't have experience. How do we expect them to have experience if we leave them outside? And therefore, our list is going to be very dynamic, very youthful, but at the same time, it will have an element of experience, because that experience is important. But however, it must be a list that is electable, that can attract young people, because they can associate themselves with certain faces that will be on the list, led by President Cyril Ramaphosa.
The ANC is on a path of renewal. You've said that you want to put forward leaders who are credible, leaders who are fit to hold office, and have you said that you're going to be accountable to the voters? The voters of South Africa want to see people that they can trust, people who are honest, to represent the ANC. I suppose then from that, Zizi, this vetting process is going to be quite important, and it personally should take quite some time for you as a party to go through each and every. And you're not going to compromise on that.
We're not going to compromise, because you must remember, the ANC is not an organization of those who are elected to lead the African National Congress or those who carry the membership card of the ANC. The ANC is a property of the people of South Africa, both black and white. So the ownership of the ANC is not about people who are here inside this building. It's about you and any other people, the cameraman behind this camera. These are the people who own to the ANC. So when we talk about the cusp of hope, that's why in the African National Congress, if we committed mistakes, as we did in the past, we must own up to some of those mistakes, because it's not about us. So people of South Africa will say to us, this is our organization, don't do this to the organization. So we might not be happy as individuals here, but the people of South Africa, because their own organization, they could say things that some of us as individuals we don't like. It's not about us, it's about people of South Africa. And therefore the decisions at the end of the day, not all of us must go to Cape Town in Parliament, even if we wish to go to Cape Town, but there are certain things that may not make us possible to reach Cape Town, because there may be certain questions about us. We're not going to compromise around issues of credibility of the list, about integrity of the list, about the fact that that list must be electable. When somebody looks at that list, must say, wow, these are the people I can trust. And therefore, this leadership, even post this list conference, must then satisfy itself that through these people, these are the people who've got credibility, who imbue revolutionary values of the ANC: honesty, trust, hard work, commitment, dedication. This is a list that must come out of this list conference.
This list that came from the branches, these were the members of the ANC at branch level who first sat and decided and made their choices. Just looking at the overall choices that are made, I mean, for example, now that you speak about all the characteristics and whatever that you need or you expect from the leaders that are going to be chosen, how did the branches choose? Did the branches look at all the things that you're speaking about credible leaders who are honest, with integrity from the bottom? Because these names came from branch members who in fact are going to, in a sense, be deciding for the rest of the voters. The ANC, of course, is supported by many people who are not necessarily card-carrying members of the party.
The highest decision-making body between conferences is the National Executive Committee, to answer your question. The National Executive Committee will have to look at whether indeed what comes out from the branches is what the people of South Africa expect. So branches of the ANC, naturally, we will not want to cast aspersions on their ability to understand what kind of people and leaders we want to be public representatives. Not just representatives of the ANC, but public representatives. Through the eye of the needle, people who are committed, we've got a track record, but people whom we know in themselves that they are prepared to serve the people of South Africa selflessly without expecting any material gains. These are the kind of leaders we want to emerge out of here. We've got experience of the recent past, the things that we face today, state capture, corruption and other things. We don't want a repeat of those things. We want to make sure that the African National Congress, through also this process, must renew itself. If we say we admit some of the mistakes we have been committed in the past, we must make sure that there is no repeat in terms of what had happened in the past. Hence, we will see that there will be new faces that are on the list. We should make sure that as part of renewing ourselves, we're re-establishing public trust. We're re-establishing confidence in public institutions that has been eroded over a period of time. So there's a lot of things that we need to do, and politically, it's not going to be an easy road ahead, but we've got to do it for the sake of this country, for the confidence of the people that they continue to have to their own organization, the African National Congress. My
last one to you, Zizi, of course, once you're done here, outside, a lot of programs are still awaiting the mobilization, of course, two really big, significant events for the parties you said earlier on, the January 8, as well as the election manifesto on Saturday. So I know there's going to be a lot of programs that you're going to be crisscrossing the province, speaking to your members, speaking to the electorate over the next couple of days.
What the mood outside of this meeting, let alone the fact that we are discussing the list conference of the ANC, the mood and enthusiasm of people, not only of KwaZulu-Natal, because if you walk past the beachfront, it's people coming from across South Africa. It's reverberating and vibrating all over KwaZulu-Natal. People can't wait for the 12th. They want to be and celebrate with this 107-year-old organization, their own organization. Already the celebrations are taking place everywhere in this province, because people can anticipate that this is their own organization, their own liberator, because the history of liberation of this country is the history of the African National Congress. They own this property, they own this entity called the African National Congress. Hence they celebrate their own birthday, because it's not just the birthday of the ANC, it's a birthday of the people of South Africa. So the celebrations, they are not waiting for this leadership to go and mobilize. People have already begun their own celebrations. I can't wait that we finish this interview, because already people in Umlazi, Kwamashu, the beachfront, everywhere, they are expecting me to come and join them in their own celebrations as a build up towards a most important Hamdinga on the 12th of this month, when the president is expected to deliver the January 8th statement.
All right, Zizi, thank you so much. Let me let you go and rush off to Kwamashu and Umlazi. Thanks very much, Zizi Kodwa, ANC NEC, and also acting national spokesperson of the ANC. As you've heard them, Mahendra, he says he has to rush off. There's certainly a lot of work that the party is going to do in terms of programs, mobilization for these upcoming events, but also most importantly, it's finishing the day, the work of the day, and that was with regards to the National List Conference. From Zizi, it was clear that we're not yet going to have a date. It doesn't look like it's going to be today, when we'll finally get to know who is on that 200 list for the National Assembly. We're also, of course, the provinces. I think in all the respective provinces, their communities are also eager to find who will be representing the ANC in the provincial legislatures. But as I said earlier on, some of the members of the NEC were starting to leave the venue for a short break. They are, as Zizi said, going to resume later on again today, where they continue with the plans and the planning and programs for the upcoming events. I'm going to leave it there for now. Mahendra, back to you in studio.
Very much indeed.